Welcome to Detroit Lions News. I'm your host, Joe Chapp, and today we'll be talking about the Detroit Lions. And there was an interesting article from Randy Mueller on The Athletic. And Randy Mueller was coming from a general manager's perspective on what his biggest concern is for every NFC North team. And with the Detroit Lions, it was a little bit of what we call in the local media, just national media not doing enough research. So Randy Mueller brought some good points to the table. He obviously said that the Lions' biggest concern is their defense. For True Media, the Lions ranked 28th in scoring defense, 30th in getting off the field and off of third downs, allowing a 45% conversion rate. They allowed 5.2 yards per rush. Only the Chargers are worse, all despite blitzing 33% of the time. He went on. He said, they added Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Emmanuel Moseley, which gets them back to par. But he said he doesn't see them stopping anyone in the near future, run or pass. At least that would be fun to watch them outscore people in the division. Now, I think what a lot of people, they don't do the right research. So when you look at the Detroit Lions defense, there's one thing you got to understand. They went out in the draft and they got Broderick Martin, they got Brian Branch, they got Jack Campbell, and they really did a good job of addressing needs that they needed. Alim McNeill has had a great offseason. He's lost weight. He's becoming I think he's going to be a pass rusher this year. I think he's going to be a total brick shit house. He's going to be absolutely phenomenal. But when you look at the Detroit Lions, I think a lot of people don't look at it from the perspective that if you're a Detroit Lions fan, you would look at it. Last year, you were starting Will Harris as your starting cornerback. You had Amani Oruwariye in games. You had, guys that were not good enough to be starting in the NFL, and they were starting for the Detroit Lions. Yet you went 8-2. Now, there's two reasons for this. One is the pass rush started to become a very valuable asset. The pass rush from James Houston, Aiden Hutchinson, when Romeo Okwara came back, even Alim McNeill was jumping in there. Josh Pascal was starting to blossom. The pass rush really helped out the Detroit Lions, very much so. So when you look at the Detroit Lions and you talk about the pass, I think the pass rush has helped out the pass. And when you add in guys like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Emmanuel Moseley, Cam Sutton, those shore up those spots. But where you got the biggest additions was in that secondary, because you are going to get Tracy Walker back. You're going to get another year of Kirby Joseph, and then you're going to have the ability to not insert Brian Branch into the lineup until he's ready to go. You're going to take him along slowly, because in the NFL, defensive backs, they have a harder time transitioning to the NFL because of the play speed and the way that it goes. And when you're Brian Branch and you can learn off Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who a lot of people compare you to, that's a great thing for the Detroit Lions. That was a phenomenal pick by Brad Holmes, because what he did is he goes, okay, we might not have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson next year. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson might go to another team. But in the meantime, we can get Brian Branch to learn off Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. We have three good safeties, and if God forbid one of the safeties gets hurt, Brian Branch can insert himself in there, and he could be a useful commodity on the pass and in the run. I look at the Detroit Lions all linebacker unit, and I say Jack Campbell is going to come along slowly. You got Derek Barnes, you got Alex Anzalone, you got Malcolm Rodriguez. I think eventually, once you get through a season, like maybe the first 3-4 weeks, you could really see this team, especially the linebacker position, get a lot better. Defensive line, I'm not worried at all. I think a lot of people are putting too much emphasis on the secondary. They're saying like, "Oh, this could be a top 5 unit." I don't say that. You're not. That's not. It's very hard to go from bottom of the NFL to top of the NFL, and it takes a little bit of luck. What I will say though, I think the Lions secondary could be a top 15 secondary. When you add in the pass rush, when you add in the players that you added, I think it could be a top 15 pass defense. The issue the Detroit Lions are going to have going into the season is stopping the run. If they can stop the run, this is a Super Bowl team, period. If they could stop the run, if Broderick Martin is what I think he is, with the Snacks Harrison type a guy, I think they could be a Super Bowl level team. We are talking about being multi-dimensional. And when you look at the Detroit Lions, a lot of things that they have done have been brilliant, especially from Brad Holmes' perspective. And Dan Campbell is going to get this team running. And I have no issues with the offense. I think the one issue I have is maybe when you look at the wide receiver position with JMO out the first 6 weeks, I think that could really throw some things off. But you add in Sam Laporta, you add in Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Brad Holmes has done a spectacular job adding to the offensive unit while not neglecting the defensive unit. And he's done a pretty good job at managing both, because in the NFL, you are going to turn over your roster yearly. So you have to draft offense and defense. You can't just focus on one, and you can't just focus on one. Because a lot of times, what has happened with the Detroit Lions is they have focused too much on one side of the ball. We've seen it with the Matthew Stafford years. The defense was usually neglected. I mean, you had that one year where they were number 2 defense or number 1 defense, but the stats really didn't tell the whole story. I mean, they were great against the run, and they really stopped you from running, and that's a big part of the game, but they just couldn't cover the pass. I mean, when you had Cassius Vaughn being one of your slot corners, and I think his passer rating from that year was like 115. Yeah, you're not going to be stopping guys. And one of the reasons that they really fell apart in that Dallas game, aside from the flags, was Cassius Vaughn couldn't cover Terrence Williams, and that was a big part of it. So when you look at the Detroit Lions, I know people are concerned about their defense, but I'm not as concerned as most people, because I think when you look at the defense, it got better in every facet. You got another year of development for Aiden Hutchinson, Josh Pascal, James Houston, Kirby Joseph. Tracy Walker's coming off injury. He's going to be played along slowly, but you're going to get time. And you're not inserting a guy like Jack Campbell into the lineup way too early. You're going to allow him to grow and get some, it's not going to be like Malcolm Rodriguez last year, where you inserted him in the lineup and it was kind of like learn as you go. Jack Campbell's going to get a chance to like sit back and learn the game, and he's not going to be pushed into the battle way too quickly. And that will help the Detroit Lions in the later part of the year. So, look, I know people can be they're worried about the defense, but the defense I'm the least worried about, to be honest. I think the defense will be good enough, and I think that they're going to be you don't even need, in my opinion, with the Detroit Lions, you don't even need a defense that is like top 10. You need a defense that's like top 15. If you had a top 15 defense last year, you're potentially going to the playoff. You would have gone to the playoffs, and you would have probably won a couple playoff games, in my opinion, because the offense was so damn good. It didn't even matter. You were scoring points that if you could just score, if you can keep opposing offense from scoring 21 points, 24 points, 21 points, you're winning that game every game. So that's what I look at when the Detroit Lions, and I know that Randy Mueller, he came from a great perspective, but what he missed was the players that were added to this team, and what they did in the later half of the year with the development of Aiden Hutchinson, the development of James Houston, and how much better they got with the pass rush, which helps out the secondary. So I'm not worried about the Detroit Lions defense, but if you are, let me know in the comments. I want to know what you think.